So, what if the end of the world? What if it isn't some big, fiery apocalypse movie kind of thing, but something, I don't know, more subtle, maybe something that's actually happening right now?
Like an ongoing process.
Exactly, like simply the end of the world as we know it.
Right.
Today we're doing a deep dive into some really fascinating, maybe bewildering ideas from Clif High.
The creator of Asymmetric Language Trend Analysis.
Yeah, that's him. He uses language patterns online to predict future stuff. And he's painting this picture right now
This moment.
as a huge transition, moving us into what he actually calls sci-fi world.
And that's our mission today, really, to unpack what on earth sci-fi world even means.
Okay.
We need to look at the forces he thinks are driving it, this massive shift. And maybe crucially, how we can start to understand, maybe even navigate, all the chaos that comes with it.
Yeah, the turbulent.
Because this isn't about predicting, the end. It's about grasping this fundamental shift in reality itself.
Okay, so let's start on that core idea. TEOTWAWKI 2027. It just sounds like a date, a specific day for disaster.
It does, but Clif High says that's not it at all. It stands for the end of the world as we know it.
As we know it. That's the key part.
That's the absolute key. He sees it as this ongoing kind of drawn-out process.
Right.
Because for a new world, a genuinely new reality to emerge,
The old one, it has to go.
it has to be shed, essentially. And that shedding process, that's where all the chaos comes from. That's the root cause of what we're feeling now.
And he suggests it's amplified by us clinging to the old ways.
Exactly. Our emotional attachment to these old structures, these failing systems that just don't work anymore.
It really does feel like things are getting, well, weirder than you can imagine.
Terence McKenna quote, yeah.
Yeah. McKenna said it would become a steady state. Clif High seems to echo that, saying it's not just getting weird.
It is weird now.
It is weird now, and the strangeness is sticking around.
And this whole emergence, it's not like, bam, one day it happens.
No specific date on the calendar.
No. He uses this analogy like material flowing through a screen.
Yeah.
A different reality is kind of solidifying on the other side of that screen.
Oh.
And as it does, the old world, the one we knew,
It gets subsumed, falls away.
it gets subsumed and falls away, yeah. And that inevitably creates this big period of chaos, which is where we are, right in the middle of it.
So this disruption is part of the process.
A necessary part, he argues.
Okay, so this shedding, this chaos, why now? What does Clif High point to as the main drivers pushing us into this sci-fi world?
Well, he identifies several big converging forces. First, a really core one, an ontological paradigm shift.
Okay, ontological paradigm shift. Break that down a bit.
It's basically a fundamental change in how we understand reality, what it is, how it works.
Ah, okay.
We're seeing the death of old systems all around us. Like, he points to the monetary system.
Based on oil and fiat currency.
Right, and how that fiat system created this rigid, pyramidical social structure.
And as those fiat currencies die, the effects ripple out everywhere.
Everywhere.
Yeah.
From the family unit right up through society. It's a breakdown of that whole order.
Makes sense.
But it's not just the old systems dying. There's also this massive acceleration in technology.
Radically transformative technology, he calls it.
Yes. And he even brings in the idea, the potential for alien visitation or non-human intelligence interacting with humans.
Wow, okay. So, dying systems, new tech, and maybe aliens.
It's a potent mix. And what's really wild is how he connects this earthly stuff to bigger cosmic cycles.
Cosmic cycle.
Yeah, he talks about an end of an age astrologically happening in like 9 or 10 different ways.
Yeah.
If you look at it from the galactic center
The
viewpoint.
galactic center.
Our whole solar system is apparently rising up higher and higher, getting more and more energy from galactic center.
So it's like earthly changes reflecting cosmic changes.
A confluence, technological, societal, cosmic, all hitting at once.
Which brings us to something really mind-bending. How technology, especially with something like quantum computing, fits into this.
Yeah, this is where it gets really interesting.
Is it just another disruptive tech, or is it tapping into something deeper?
Clif High thinks it's tapping into something deeper. He says the people developing it, the academics, engineers, they get maybe 90% of how this thing functions.
But they're missing something crucial.
They've missed some of the key aspects, yeah. And his opinion, which is, pretty bold,
Go on.
is that this tech was taken from reverse-engineered space alien technology.
Reverse-engineered alien tech. Okay.
Yeah.
That's a huge claim. What makes him think that? What's the indicator?
Well, He points to how it operates, specifically effects that seem instantaneous, like with entangled qubits.
Entanglement, right. Spooky action at a distance.
Exactly. He says they can make entangled qubits, but they don't really grasp why the effects happen instantly.
Yeah.
But there's no time involved in the way we usually think about it.
They don't get the fundamentals of it.
Not truly, no.
Yeah.
And this, he believes, connects to his concept of the event stream.
The event stream. Okay, tell us about that.
He describes it as the continuous manifestation of reality from consciousness. It's what powers our sense of duration, which we then wrongly interpret as time.
So time isn't a line. It's more like a projection.
A constant fluid projection from consciousness.
Yeah.
That's the idea. And our feeling of time passing is just how we experience that flow.
Wow.
And he thinks these current quantum computing efforts, they're accidentally plugging into this event stream
Without fully realizing it.
without fully understanding what they're connecting to. But he thinks they will. It'll become obvious.
That's a huge concept. If we really understood that, the event stream, what would that even mean practically?
Well, he predicts it'll lead to a whole new category of devices, not
Ooh.
digital like we have now, but based on analog computing combined with AI firmware.
Analog devices.
Yeah, like handheld detectors for the
Right.
event stream. He compares it to a metal detector.
So you could scan the event stream.
Peer into the event stream and see what's likely to manifest. That's the idea, to help with decisions.
Like seeing potential futures bubbling up.
Something like that. And this ties into qualia.
Well, yeah.
He defines qualia as the smallest possible level of dynamic action or energy required to initiate meaning from one consciousness to another.
Smallest unit of meaning.
And humans,
Right.
certainly qualia noting machines, we're constantly reacting to the event stream, picking up these qualia.
Ah.
And this understanding, he says, it's going to permeate the tech world. It'll force a whole new philosophical approach to engineering these things.
Okay, this is a lot. Immense change, new physics, new tech. For someone listening, trying to just get through their day, it can feel overwhelming.
Absolutely.
So how do we even start to make sense of it? How do we see the signs? And what does Clif High suggest for actually navigating this?
Well, he talks about temporal markers. These are things in the data patterns he's tracked since way back in '97 that are now showing up big time.
Like warning signs or indicators.
More like indicators of the underlying shifts. And he says silver is a very key temporal marker.
Silver, the metal.
Yeah. High silver prices, or big moves in silver, indicate great chaos and unsettled conditions.
And we're seeing that now.
Absolutely. He points to the price breaking out over $35 in options.
Yeah.
Says it's only the third time in history it's been that high.
Wow.
He sees it as the end of silver suppression, the idea that its price has been artificially held down,
Yeah.
and it's moving towards becoming unobtainium.
Unobtainium from Avatar.
Yeah. But he uses it to mean a resource whose value perception shifts so fundamentally it becomes almost priceless, representing a new, true kind of valuation.
Okay, so silver is a big marker. What about this end of the world in 2027 narrative we keep hearing? How does that fit in?
He says it definitely gets traction because of the real underlying nature of the destruction of the old world. People feel the instability, but he argues the powers that be are actually piggybacking on that feeling.
Using the chaos.
Yeah, hyping the instability to push their own agendas.
Yeah.
Maybe some kind of communist paradise idea, he suggests. The chaos is real, but the narrative around it might be manipulated.
So within this chaos, some people are just lost at sea, while others are kind of navigating it.
That's a key distinction he makes. He talks about normies, just average people who will basically just thrash around in this ocean of chaos without understanding what's happening.
And the others.
And then there are organized groups who understand the bigger picture and are actively swimming with the current, adapting to the changes.
What makes the difference? Awareness.
Awareness is huge. Understanding these larger shifts, not getting caught in the day-to-day fear narratives, and being adaptable.
Okay, speaking of fear narratives, what about things like killer meteors? Or even a fake alien invasion? Are those serious threats in this scenario?
He kind of dismisses the meteor fears, even the ones tied to dates like 2029 or 2027.
Dismisses them. How?
He actually cites an example, a supposed UFO or UAP sighting over California, where this object seemed to interact with a meteor,
Interact how?
caused it to swerve off and actually rise. He connects this to Bob Lazar's talk about anti-gravity force and suggests maybe we or someone can just push meteors out of the way.
An anti-gravity space shield.
Something like that. His conclusion is pretty philosophical. If Earth were destroyed by a meteor, well, that's what the universe wants, so ultimately nothing to worry about.
Right. Acceptance on a cosmic scale.
Yeah.
And the fake alien invasion. That sounds more like a potential human-made threat.
He considers that a much more likely scenario than a killer meteor, yeah.
But he thinks it won't work.
He thinks it'll fail. Miserably. Because of the emergence of the internet and what he calls anons.
The online collective.
Yeah, this decentralized network that can analyze and disseminate information incredibly quickly. He believes they would shred any fake invasion narrative in real time, within minutes.
They'd debunk it too fast.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He suggests the deep state, or whoever might try it, just doesn't have the wherewithal and emotional energy to fight that kind of instant, widespread pushback anymore.
Okay, so maybe fewer Hollywood threats to worry about, but the underlying chaos is still ramping up.
Oh yeah, escalating rapidly. He flagged July, for instance, as likely having at least half again as much in terms of emotional tension as May did.
More tension. And economically.
We're heading into an emerging depression. But crucially, he says it won't be like the old ones. Not driven by banks and Federal Reserve debt in the same way.
Because the system itself is changing.
Right. It's part of the transition away from that debt-based system towards a non-debt-based currency world.
Which would crush old institutions.
Severely impact them.
Yeah.
He specifically mentions legacy giants like Freddie Mac and Fannie Mae.
And after July...
Interestingly, he predicted August might be a bit calmer, a chance for society to kind of digest some shocking new understandings.
Digest what?
Particularly things related to alien ZPT, that's zero-point energy tech, he explains, and the implications of that technology.
Our breather month.
A relative breather, yeah. Before the flood of chaos and change comes back strong. Very big way through fall and in through winter.
Okay, so knowing all this, the shift, the chaos, the markers, the potential pitfalls, what does this mean for you, the listener? How do you actually cope? How do you survive, maybe even thrive?
Well, going back to qualia, Clif High emphasizes using our own native human ability as a qualia receptor.
Our intuition, our gut feelings.
Basically, yes.
Yeah.
Letting those subtle signals affect our decisions about things. He gives a personal example, actually.
Oh, yeah.
About a woman named Heidi who came into his life. He describes her as gorgeous, young, charming, smart, and very psychic and very prescient.
Okay.
He believes the universe provides tons of qualia to support connections like that, and that the universe speaks through her language choices.
The universe speaks through how people talk.
That's his take. He gives a specific example where Heidi jokingly gave him grief about his dance on silver.
Uh-huh.
And then she pointed out Peter Schiff is an accurate counterindicator, meaning if he's against something, you should go out and buy it. And for Clif High, that comment, that qualia coming through Heidi, confirmed the silver breakout he was seeing in the data.
Wow. So pay attention to those little comments, those offhand remarks.
Pay attention to how people speak, yeah.
Oh.
Because the universe is intruding on them in their selection of words, offering clues.
That's a fascinating way to think about conversation. So listen to the qualia.
Huh.
What else? Practically, how do we handle the stress of all this accelerating change?
For practical coping, he advises, narrow your focus to your body and then in your mind, and then work out from there.
Start inwards.
Exactly. Focus on the basics. Exercise, watching your diet, taking your vitamins. Do things that actively de-stress.
Because the event stream itself is stressful.
It induces stress hormones, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So you need to counteract that physically and mentally.
Yeah.
And be aware that the rate of change is accelerating quite rapidly.
It's getting faster.
And even the rate of acceleration is accelerating. It's compounding. He really emphasizes sci-fi world is here. It's burbling up all around us and setting out its foundations.
It's not coming, it's here.
And we'll be living in it in a couple of years. His bottom line, the world won't be the same in 2 years.
Right. So let's just recap the core takeaway. 2027, or this period, it isn't the literal end, Armageddon style.
No.
It's the profound transformation of the world as we know it. This sci-fi world is emerging right now, bubbling up around us.
Driven by that convergence tech, cosmic shift, societal breakdown, bringing chaos, yes, but also new possibilities.
And as we just discussed, maybe the universe itself is giving us clues, these qualia, even through the people we talk to every day, to help us navigate it.
It really comes down to cultivating that awareness, paying attention to those nudges, those subtle signals, alongside the bigger trends.
So a final thought for you listening. As this summer continues and things maybe feel increasingly chaotic, what old world structures, or maybe just assumptions you've always held, are you noticing starting to crumble?
Good question.
And how might you start using your own intuition, your own sense of those qualia to make decisions, especially as we navigate the economic bumps expected through July and again in the fall? And yeah, like the expert said, remember to watch your stress levels through it all,
Right.
because the world as you know it really is changing fast.